Hello friends, this is Kathy McAllister, T-Wife Productions, and this is Grace, the angel. Isn't she beautiful? So I'm working today on the background here, and the first thing we're going to do is use banana cream and a blending brush or a dry brush, and we're going to create a little aura around her. So you can see that building. And you can, to know where she's supposed to be, you can place her where she's supposed to go, and you can work around her while you're holding her. Or you can use some kind of Stabilo or a pencil like this, although the white's really hard to see. So you can also like get a light colored yellow pencil and just draw a line. And when I draw the line, and also if I'm holding her in place, I usually will drop it just a smidge down, because I don't want the line to show above where the wings are. And in fact, after you do this, if you're holding her in place while you're doing that and you lift her, you might get kind of a harsh line here, and you want to make sure you blend that out so it kind of looks like this. So that's the banana cream that we started with. And you don't have to get, it isn't quite like traditional dry brushing where you get all the paint out. We don't need to remove all the paint, but depending on what kind of brush you're using, you can use kind of a soft touch. So, and you can see I'm trying to go in sort of a circular pattern to create this aura. And before you, and you can see I'm going well below my line, and because when we put her back on, we want to make sure that we're not seeing any harsh line. So and before, like if you want to do a second coat of this, you just want to make sure that the first coat has dried. So the next color we're going to use is Sunny Day. So if one coat's probably good enough since you're moving on to Sunny Day, but it's up to you if you want to do one or two coats. But I am going to grab the Sunny Day. So hold on. So Sunny Day is that. So it's a brighter color, as you can see. It's a brighter color. That was the banana cream, and that's the Sunny Day. So it is a little bit brighter. And you can see the difference now between these two. I've taken this way down the line because I'm blending a lot. So you don't need, you can keep it really narrow like this. And this is kind of a semi-dry brush. You can go a little bit drier, because if you go with the semi-dry brush, you have to have a very, very light hand. And these Dynasty Pros, you have to be careful because they are softer than like a Mezzaluna or whatever dry brush you currently use, if this is what you're using. So, but it doesn't have to be a fully dry brush where you just wipe out, you know, almost all of the moisture out of your brush. You don't have to do it like that, but you do need to make sure it's not too wet. So anyway, that's what it looks like versus that. So, and I ended up doing one coat of banana cream. This is one coat of the Sunny Day. So that's probably all you need to do, because we're going to layer colors. Okay, so now we're moving on to Warm Sunset. And if you are having trouble seeing where the little hill and valley is here, you can always put your Grace back and just see how things are going and go in there. with the orange, but or you can just kind of feel it. Kind of feel where you want to put this. Okay, so now you want to make sure it isn't too wet. I could switch to a more dry brush as opposed to this blender, but anyway, we'll see. We'll see if this is too wet. It is a little wet. It is a little wet, so we don't want to completely wipe out the yellow. So this particular dry brush might just be a little too wet, but I'm going to keep going. Okay. And I did clean out the brush before I did this, because otherwise you end up with coral instead of orange. So I did clean out the brush. Ooh, 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 I like that. So if you use a softer dry brush, just make sure you dry it really good, because that's gorgeous. Okay, so that was Warm Sunset. Okay, so whenever I do a piece again, it doesn't always necessarily look exactly the same, but there's other steps I'm going to be taking on this. So the aura ended up going probably a little higher than I wanted, but there's some things I do at the end to add in some blue over the top where it blends it, and also it won't be quite so broad. But I do think I want to come back with a little bit of neon torrid orange just to brighten that up a little bit. The Warm Sunset is quite warm. And I just want to come back. And the one thing about this torrid orange, it has some translucency to it, whereas other colors may be a little bit too opaque. And I'm just going to introduce a little of it and see if we can change the nature of the Warm Sunset. So it will make it more glowy, because that's what we want, you know, her aura glows. Yeah, I like that. Let me dry it, and then we can compare it. I think Orange Flame might work too. Okay. So it helped to blend the orange as well, because doing the one coat of Warm Sunset, there's some streakiness going on, so the torrid orange helps to blend that as well. I'm going to look at Orange Flame too, just to see what it looks like. Hold on one sec. So Orange Flame looks like that. That's lighter. So that's bright orange. Let's see. Yeah, I still think that the torrid orange is probably the better choice because of the translucency, and it really does glow now, and it's blended and it's made it very smooth. So, yay. So if you're not that familiar with some of the neons, that they're really good as accents and highlights at the end of your applications of colors. They make things pop, and they add something different. So I always like to use neons in my painting. Fiery Red's another one I like a lot. Okay, so I've done a couple of these now, and I'm really loving the neon torrid orange and what it's doing to the aura. So And you can use a semi-dry brush for this. It doesn't have to be a full dry brush, because if it's fully dry, it doesn't seem to want to release the paint. So I am using a semi-dry brush. So I'm not painting it on like opaquely. So I'm still using a dry brush, blending brush. But, and it's nice if you can get like fuzzies at the top, as opposed to don't drag it like this. You know, you can do the circular motion, or you can go up and down strokes like this, but you don't want to leave a real definitive line. So yeah, it's really popping with that torrid orange. Beautiful color. Okay, so now we're moving on to the sky. So Cobalt Teal U is a media fluid acrylic color, and these are highly pigmented. So really just a small amount is all you need with water to create a color wash. And they hold up really well too. And I always talk about my color washes, whether they're inky or milky. Well, this is going to be an inky one. So the milky is a little bit thicker, and we are after an inky color wash. And I tell people to use a juicy brush. So you can use a flat, but I tend to find that the rounds, the quills, work better. And Lynn Andrews floaters were actually designed for color washes. Well, I'll show you, because this one's, mine have been through the wars, but hers always come to a tip, which is very helpful if you're trying to do like detail. So you can do some color washes, and then you can turn around and do some detail. This is a watercolor brush that I carry from Prima Marketing, and I believe this might be also a watercolor brush from Scharf. So the watercolor brushes are going to hold more moisture when you're doing a color wash. So you can see kind of the point difference on these. So this just comes to a slightly better point. But anything like that will work. Any kind of quill round that you might have. Okay, so this is an inky color wash. And then the other thing, you need a stiff brush to help blend the color as you put it down. So any kind of stiff brush. This is specifically designed for it. It's a domed brush by Richardson, but there's other kinds of brushes that you can use that are similar. You just want to make sure it's got some stiffness to it. It's not supposed to be a mop brush. A mop brush will pick the paint up. This is more about blending and kind of quasi moving the paint around and picking up some of the heavier bits that kind of pool, because sometimes if they pool, they can leave like watermarks. So if it's too wet and juicy in certain areas, you can end up with watermarks. I'm going to try not to get it into the crevices of my word, because I don't want to lose that nice brown color I've got going on. So you see here, it's wanting to start creating like little water line, and this will keep it from doing that. Now, the other thing you can do is use a paper towel and blot it, but sometimes the paper towel will bring up too much. So just, you probably have a white-haired, bristle brush in your supplies, and that just will help to move the color washes and blend them. So this one might be a little bit big for this spot. I probably need to use a slightly smaller one. I'm going to do some things later that will bring the blue down to blend this line. Okay, so that's the cobalt teal blue. That's the beginning of this process. That there's lots of layers to go, but that's how we started. Okay, so anyway, that was the lighter cobalt teal hue. Now we're going to use this cerulean blue, and we're going to go back over with the color wash. We don't necessarily have to take it all the way down, so you can see what that color looks like. And I'm using kind of a pity patty as opposed to a pity patty technique to lay down the color. Now sometimes when you just load up, this is quite juicy, very, very juicy. So you can tip it off onto a paper towel so that you're not bringing over quite so much juice. That may have been almost, this is very, very inky. It might be too inky. So again, this is just a process of building the colors. Get a slightly smaller sash brush. And you can also, like, well, I don't know if you have, a dry brush is probably not big enough, but you can get inexpensive brushes like this that work as well. So just kind of see what you've got already available to do that process. So you want to bring it down some, but you know, we're kind of working in layers here, and we don't want to totally lose everything that we've already done. Okay, and then you will dry that again. Okay, the next thing is this cobalt blue hue, and this is going to be for shading at the top edge, so it's significantly darker than what we were using. So get whatever brush you like to shade with, whether it's a flat or an angled, and everything's following me around here. Just don't have enough workspace. I never have enough workspace, especially for underneath the camera. I can't really move my camera over any further because it's hooked onto my table. So it always wants to shoot more over here where I'm working more over here. I think I want to make that darker, but I have to dry it first. Okay, so more of the cobalt blue hue. Let's see. I might need to change my angled shader. This is not the one I typically use. It's not as soft as the one I like. Okay, so you get that darkness at the top, but I'm trying to walk it down a little bit, and it's kind of hard to do with this brush because it's just not soft enough. So I am going to my favorite, that's my absolute favorite, the 1/2 inch Jo Sonja. Definitely love that. Okay. So hopefully this will give me the ability to walk this color down a little bit because it is a bit softer. So I've got it on the sides, but I just kind of want to start bringing it down. Yep. That's making me much happier. Okay. All right. Phew, just got to have the right brush. Okay, so again, we started with a color wash of Cobalt Teal U. We then pity-pattied on some cerulean blue, and then we used a shading brush to add in some cobalt blue. So now we're going to start the process of sort of blending the lines and bringing some of the sky into the aura area. And because we don't want to see like this line here, so we're going to use a dry brush. And probably if you have an oval one, you don't have to, it just works a little bit better. So something that's an oval dry brush. I might even try this stippler from Lynn Andrews because it's a little stiffer and it might give me more of what I want off of this. And we're going to start by adding in a little bit of what we started with, which was Cobalt Teal U. But we will have to water it down a little bit because it is very strong. So even though this is stippling with a dry brush, I still need to put some water with this color because it is very pigmented. Let's see where that's going. Okay, so that's the first step. And then we're going to use, we have Crystal Blue and Bahama Blue. And Bahama Blue is just a little darker. Crystal Blue is very light. And you can use one or the other. You don't have to use both. And we're going to use that to continue this process. You just want to make sure this is fully dry here. Let's just see how much. Again, it's always good to check. So I probably don't want to go any further down along her head, but I've got a little bit extra in here. So I want to keep that in the blue because that's kind of a narrow edge of aura. Let's see. So I can dip down. Okay. So we had been using some cerulean blue. So the darker color was the cobalt blue U, the middle color was cerulean blue, and the bottom color is cobalt teal U. I'm just going to come back with a little bit more of the cerulean in here because I want it to not look like dry brushing, but look more like a mottled sky. So mottled sky, which has, you know, in painting that has that kind of watercolor effect. So the next step, and again, they don't really look the same. This is definitely a brighter one. And I could come back with some of my darker color washes and take that back, but I don't know whether I want to or not. So anyway, uh, Love Potion, that's what this pinkish color tone is in the background. And the reason I like to do that is if you get the Northern Lights, they often have pink in them, depending on what area you're in. If you're in Colorado, when we do see them, we see them as pink. So you just want some subtle touches of that. You don't want it to be strong. So in this case, you do want to dry off most of the Love Potion from your brush. And you're just going to go here and there. I'm going to refer to the one I did just so. Okay. So I really dried a lot of it off, and now I can't see any of it. Okay, so that's about all you need. Okay. It really does something special. And then when you put the stars of the galaxy on, the heavens, the stars of the heavens, that makes it even more special. So we'll do that in a second. But I wanted to go over something here. Let me see if I can find one of these that, okay, so this one, I'm going to work on this one a little bit. So I used a shading brush. So I used a shading brush to go over this, but I feel like I need to do a little bit more up there. If you want a slightly darker line, like this up here, that is Prussian Blue U. Prussian blue, Prussian Blue U. And it is very dark. And you can, you'll see how dark it is. Move this over. You can, instead of using a shading brush, you can go back to using your floater, your juicy brush, as I call them. So your round, your juicy brush, whatever you want to call them. And just kind of get a nice tip on that. And you can go back over, and that is actually very dark. I didn't mean to get it quite so far into, and you don't have to do this. You can leave it with the, what is it, the cobalt blue U as the final color up there. You can also pat that down with a paper towel. But if you wanted it to be just a little bit darker up there on the edge, you can do that. going to dry it. So if you would prefer to shade with a flat or an angled instead, again, this is that, I gotta look it up, Prussian blue. So I was just going to show you, again, you can just do the shading with an angle, since you've already done some shading. So it just kind of depends. I guess the angled brush, the thing with the floater is sometimes it can be really wet, whereas with the shading brush, you tend to have just the right amount go down. But you have options, you have options. And then I'm going to show you with the Cobalt Blue U. So that is, if you do these in order, you have the darkest is the Prussian blue, then the Cobalt Blue U, then the Cerulean Blue, and the first one we started with is the Cobalt Teal U. So I'm just kind of going back over this because I wanted to show you, if you have the Cobalt Blue U, again, I did this with the shading brush initially to put this line, and then this shade, and then I walked it down a little bit. And sometimes walking it down, I don't know, sometimes I find it challenging and I end up with strokes of lines. I don't have it so much on this, but you do have the option, again, to do like a color wash. So let me dry this and I'll show you. Okay, you can see there's a real difference. The light's not the best, but yeah, there you go. So you can see the Prussian blue. So there's a real difference. It really has a signature look when you do that. But you don't have to do it. So this has a little bit of, nope, not that one. This one. That does have a little bit of the Prussian blue at the top, the darker color. But you can stop at the Cobalt Blue. Okay, so like I said, like this, I feel like I need a little bit more of all the blues in here. Where is mine? There it is. So I'm gonna get my juicy floater, and this is the Cobalt Blue U. So instead of using a shader, again, this is not the dark Prussian blue, but you can come in and do a shade and a color wash with this instead of using a flat or a shader. So you have options. That's all I wanted to show you, that you have options. So then after this dries, if I want it to be darker, then I can still come back with the darkest Prussian blue. Okay, so I showed you this earlier, but I am going to just come back in with some of the original color that we used, which is the Cobalt Teal U, which is the lighter one, because you can see it's a little light in there. And then, as I showed you earlier, then you can, if you want to blend it, come back with that Bahama Blue or Crystal Blue. I'm just trying to see. So it was this one. So I've got multiple months I'm doing here. So I may come back in, and it helps just to smooth this line a little bit. And again, if you place her, you can see like there's way too much orange showing here. And I could bring this down a little bit. So we definitely want to kind of blend those lines once this dries. So that's why I was doing the stippling with the dry brushing. I know I'm showing you some of this stuff over and over and over again. Okay, so I will dry that. So I have this metallic, dazzling metallic silver, and this is going to have to be touched up. And you could do anything with it. You could create a color wash of the blue if you wanted. You could paint it all silver. You could use stencils. But you do want to go ahead and do your little, gosh, I don't know what they call these things that are on the top of ornaments. Good question. But you want to go ahead and do this metal piece in silver on both sides, and you don't necessarily have to do the sides of the of this piece, but I am going to do it on the silver metal area. So a lot of people like to come back with a marker, a black marker, and go over here on the edge to reinforce the sharpness of the black color. But on this silver piece here, I am going to do the sides just of the silver piece, not the rest of it. Some people like to use gold down the sides. I tend to use black. I'll show you in a sec after I do this. This particular Deco Art Dazzling Metallic Silver really covers nicely. So some silvers are kind of translucent, and this one is not. And that's exactly what I needed, because I had areas where some of the blues were coming into the metal piece. Okay, so what was I talking about? I have like this Mr. Pen permanent marker, and it's really good for the side because it has this chisel edge. And so a lot of people will come, if there's paint on the edges, they'll just trace this all the way around to clean it up. So I don't have a lot of paint here, but they'll just travel the edge. And then, like I said, there's other people who like to paint gold or use a silver marker or a gold marker. So however you want to do that, but because it gets kind of messy there, and if you have multiple colors like we do here, then you're going to get multiple colors on the edge, and you know, you could paint it, but what color are you going to paint it? So I just use the black marker, and it makes a big difference. Okay, so I've got one more step on here that we need to stain, distress this to make it so it's not so bright. It's to create a slightly vintage look. So we're going to get a little bit of burnt umber or a similar color and do a stain. So I have some burnt umber and some raw umber. And I put them down now. I forgot which is which. I believe that one's raw umber and this one is burnt umber. I just didn't know which one I would prefer. And of course you have your own, there's Americana, espresso, asphaltum, burnt umber. You don't have to use the media line. But what we want to try to do is create a distressing color wash that it will be put on pretty thinly. So okay, so that one is the raw umber. I'm trying to see which one is, I'll just try the raw umber. Well, let me see what the other one looks like as well. Okay, so this one is the burnt umber. I think I like the burnt umber better. It has just a little bit more red to it. Okay. So on this one, if I get a paper towel, I want to blot it as I put it down. So just And you want some a little bit up there too. So if it gets too heavy, just really dot it, dab it, not dot it, dab it. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. So it's like adding contrast and shading. Sometimes a little bit of distressing just makes it feel more authentic, as opposed to maybe a little bit too bright and too on the nose. That a little bit of distressing can add some character, some depth. Yeah, that looks much better than just doing, this is really bright and in your face, and sometimes you need just that little special something that tones it down. See a little bit in there. So you have to make sure everything is fully dry before you do that, because you don't want to lift any of your previous color. Kind of in there as well. Okay. All right. So the next step is to create the stars in the heavens. Whee, whee. And you can use a pearlescent. I think I just used the metallic to do that. So we need to splatter. Okay, I'm just going to use this lid I was going to throw away. Hold on, I got to dry this too. Make sure you fully dry that before you do the splatter. Okay, so color wash, splatter. Let me see if I do it this way. No, it wants to splatter. Okay. That's probably enough. Yeah. I don't know if I used, I guess after it dries you'll see it more, because this looks a little duller. Interesting. Okay, after it dried, it definitely took on the right tone. Initially, when it was wet, I couldn't see it as well, but now you can. Okay, I have another silver, and I don't know if that might be a little bit brighter. So that's the thing, you got to play with your silver, or if you have a white pearlescent, sometimes you'll get a different look depending on, what metallic you're using. So I can definitely see it now, but it looks a little different than the other one I did, but the whole thing looks different too. So anyway, let's see. Once we put her in place, there you go. So, of course, it needs to be sealed, and you need to do something with the back, But that is how you do the sky and her glow. And I hope you enjoyed that little tutorial. And thank you so much for painting along with me, Painting Grace. And we'll see you next time. This is Kathy McAllister, T White Creations. Bye.